Don't worry, I will be nice. Hi, I'm welcome to the National Quiz Choice Online News, say with Hyatt, and here I have one of Singapore's leading, academics, Professor Chitra Shegar. She's the associate professor with the assistant professor with the National Institute of Education here in Singapore, and she's specialized in the area of research on reading, as well as other methods of reading for children here in Singapore. Professor Chitra, right?
Chitra Shegar.
That's right. Could you give us some insights on how principals and teachers around the world are able to realize and help children to know how to read and the importance of reading?
Well, basically, as I did my presentation this morning, one of the key things that all around the world that is known is that reading is important, but what educators, principals, etc. have failed to realize that there are different facets to reading. Right now, a lot of investment of money is going into teaching children how to read, but very little investment is being made on developing in children a love for reading. And I think this is something that educators, principals, and other educational stakeholders need to take care of, because if children are not given the will to read, we will have a whole generation of readers who can read but don't want to read. And this is not going to put us in a very good position to excel in the 21st century. In the 21st century, you find that a professional who is going to excel is someone who is knowledgeable, who has got very advanced critical literacy skills. And this is going to come about not as a result of being able to read, but surely as a result of about the volume of reading, how much a child reads, how avid a reader he is during his lifetime is going to basically determine his competencies in the 21st century.
Amazing. What are the issues and challenges that's coming ahead right now? With the rise of ebooks, and the use of of mobile phones and iPads. Do you think such devices could help and encourage and as well as enhance the culture of reading? What's your perspective?
Well, basically, I think there is a place for ebooks, etc. You find that there are a lot of children who are actually doing a lot of reading on the internet, but I think it's very important that as educators we actually inform them not only of the plus points of reading on the net, but also the minus points. Like for instance, I'm not sure if many of you have actually looked at this video by Nicholas Carr, Is Google Making Us Stupid? On the one hand, Google is actually giving us a lot of information about about the world, about things that are going on, but the kind of reading that is being promoted on the net is a very transient form of reading. It is not like a physical book where you can put it down, reflect, and think about what you have read. And on the net, when you're reading on the net, there is a lot of skimming, there's a lot of scanning, and there is very little opportunity for engaged reading. So my advice is, while the internet is here to stay, ebooks are here to stay, we should acknowledge their place in society, but we also should emphasize to our children the importance of reading books, an actual physical book. Because when you're reading an actual physical book, you have the opportunity to put it down, to go back and reread, rethink about what you have read. And those are the things that are fundamental for developing a child cognitively.
Any steps that for most teachers and principals can take to help and elevate the culture of reading for children around the world?
I think first of all there needs to be a realization that it is not going to be enough to invest in children knowing how to read. Parents, educators, teachers need to realize that a lot more time has to be spent on developing the children's will for reading. This necessarily means that parents and teachers and educators have to actively promote books to the children and bring across to children the joys of reading. I think that's extremely important. If kids do not know how wonderful books are and how enjoyable they can be, they are not likely to take to reading. So teachers and parents have to be ambassadors, and there are various ways of doing it. You can actually organize talks, book talks. You can have storytelling sessions in your school. You can have occasions where you celebrate authors. You can celebrate books, and carry out a lot of activities in the school to show that the school values reading, and they would like their children to become avid lifelong readers. And if this message is brought across to students on a regular basis, and the school culture speaks loudly that reading is important and it is valued, then the reading habit is likely to be caught among the students.
Speaking about being caught up, to be able to understand and able to read, how could teachers and educators are able to encourage students the value of comprehension, in writing? Because as they read, sometimes they find it difficult to write or able to comprehend. I mean, for yourself, you have been writing for a very long time and you love reading. Is there any simple
Basically,
solutions?
I think a lot of it has to do with how the child is engaged with books. In Singapore, a lot of parents do get caught up with this race where reading has become a race to finish the book. But that's not what reading is. True engaged reading is about the child connecting with the book. And one of the ways in which parents and teachers can actually promote that is that they could actually demonstrate to children what that kind of reading is. Like, for instance, in a class, if a teacher is engaged with exploring a book with a child, the teacher, instead of just reading the book in a race to finish the book, can actually stop at different places and try and find connections between the book and the child. And there are various kinds of connections you can make. You can make connections between the book and the self, connections between the book and the world, connections between the book and other books. And all these connections will bring about a lot of social interaction and discussion about books. And this is what they believe finally hooks children with books, because they see that the book is speaking to them. They're able to connect with the book. And that's what they should be doing in order to promote reading.
Have you found in your research that when a child has a great interest and able to develop the culture of reading, does that also reflect in your writings? Does that able to improve your writing skills?
Well, you see, the benefits of reading are numerous. For a long time, people looked at reading as something that improved language proficiency. But now there's a lot of research to suggest that reading is actually correlated with academic achievement. And as we know, academic achievement is often also related to success in later life. So there are lots and lots of benefits of reading. And of course, reading definitely promotes writing, because you find that reading and writing are flip sides of the same coin. So if you are an avid reader, a lot of the knowledge that you gather from reading subconsciously is going to be translated into your writing as well, as they are flip sides of the same coin.
What's next for Asia right now, especially Singapore, the culture of reading? Because there's a lot of bookstores I see around in Asia, especially Singapore, has been closing down. Is there any way to save that?
Well, I mean, I think in Singapore, Singapore has got one of the highest literacy rates. We perform very well in the PISA test and the TIMSS test. So the issue with our kids is not to teach them how to read, but really a love for reading. Yes, it is a sad thing that bookshops are closing for whatever reasons it might be. But I think Singapore is very fortunate. We have a wonderful public library system and school library system, and kids actually do have a lot of access to materials. And most of the time, it is very convenient to borrow books from all these places because you've got the mobile library services, you have NLB well connected to schools, so kids don't have to go too far in order to borrow books. I think what is necessary is educating these children and helping them realize how enjoyable reading is, and I think the rest should follow.
Speaking about being a follower, is it true that the media plays a very important part for a child being influenced towards developing their interest in reading? Because what we have observed is that the child watches TV very often, cartoons and so on, and what happens is that the child itself, they develop a certain kind of perception about reading, and therefore, my question is this: is staying relevant for educators, important to be able to relate to the children, because everybody is trying to stay relevant, and because of technology and trends and fashion, must teachers able to understand what's happening, that's going on the media as well as the internet?
Well, like I said, I take a very balanced view where this is concerned. We are all living in a technological age. We can't divorce ourselves from the internet and the media. But all I'm saying is that while children can be given access to internet and media, which is rightfully the right thing to do, of course, given the fact that we're living in a technological age, what we should not do is to also decrease our emphasis on books. Because books, whether you like it or not, when you watch something on the internet, you find that there are certain cognitive skills that are not being developed. Like for instance, if I read a book and everything is in print, I have to think and visualize what that scene might be. But on the computer, it is already, it's up there for me just to basically absorb. So there are certain cognitive skills that are being developed by books, which we should not forgo. But at the same time, I think we should not tell kids that books are the only way, because they live in a technological world and we need to see a balance in both.
Well, thank you, Dr. Chitra, for sharing with us here at the National Reader's Choice and same with Hyatt Online News. And the importance of reading continues for the next generations and many generations to come. And here, please do log on to the Asian Festival of Children's Content for more information here in Singapore. And once again, I'm Robin Stienberg. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.